So one of the things that I just said before we were recording, and Tati, I'm going to do my best to keep it short. You keep me honest here and say it again. Is if you think of bots, some folks don't necessarily have the greatest experiences with these things, and so on and so forth. This is previous to some of the massive technological innovations that have happened in the last 18, 24 months. And part of the reason for that, and Steve, going to give you all the credit, I'm going to use your analogy and metaphor, is imagine if you had a call center where people pick up phone calls that come in from customers, et cetera, and they're answering the call, and they have a binder next to them with 300 pages, and every person that works in this 400 person call center all has the same binder. And if you want to update the binder based on changes in the business or something that folks collectively learn in their interactions, you have to literally update the physical binder or some digital representation of that in a file on a computer, and so on and so forth. That's not the world we're operating in anymore at all. The world that we're now operating in is, imagine that every one of those binders is a collective brain, that every single person, whether it's the 400 people that interface with the market or every single customer, they all get the equal benefit of that brain and its photographic memory and its ability to read and react in real time based on experiences that it understands from the market and frustrations that customers have and ways to improve things or ways to make things better that are already good. But the bottom line is, a lot of what I think can be confusing for people when it comes to artificial intelligence and this territory of customer experience is, hey, that's really interesting, but I don't know that I have the time or the bandwidth or the interest, frankly, in programming my brand guidelines and this, that, and the other thing. And we're here to help you understand that, number one, that's not the case. That's not at all how you have to think about it. And number two, and I'm going to pass it to you, Tati, because I hope I did a decent job setting this thing up, but it's almost like, think of the artificial intelligence enabled brain as something that isn't that different from the way you would ultimately think about a new employee on their first day. And so when you hire a new employee and you hire a brain to work with the new employee, you're onboarding, you're training, they're learning, they're iterating, they're getting better. But the good news is with the AI is that everyone benefits from the brain's ability to get better. The humans, as well as the brain itself, as well as the customers who have interactions directly with the brain and or with the brain and human beings, and so on and so forth. So Tati, I'm sure I word salad that a little bit, but does that kind of fit into what we were talking about and move us towards the demonstration and what have you? Any feedback? The microphone is yours.
No, 100%. You hit the nail on the head with, one of the fears and one of the things I've heard is, well, this bot is just going to not sound like human, not sound like, how is it representing my brand? How is it speaking to the things I wanted to? There's a tendency to think that these are sort of standardized solutions. Again, we're all traumatized by the out of the box thing, by the way. Everyone has worked with technology in the last 15, 20 years is traumatized by things that they purchased out of the box, which didn't really do all the things they were promised they were going to do. So this is completely different from that, because what you're doing is build, the demo in a very basic way is, I put together a script of how I wanted this agent to interact at a very basic level with this, made up brand that we created for this. Steve then puts together that, and his team work on the technology to make that happen, which means it can be anything you want it to be, which goes back to your point on employees, onboarding an employee the same way you onboard the AI. You're gonna have to go over what your brand is, what it is about. You have to have the processes in place. You have to have a standard for customer experience, which is where, if you don't, that's where many times these become the silver bullets that someone's selling, is to say, oh, let me put this technology in here and it's gonna solve all your problems. If you don't have a solution, if you don't have a point of view, if you don't have a stance on how you want this to happen, it's not gonna happen. And it's kind of like that joke of, like, which way are we going? How long till we get there? It doesn't really matter. We don't know. We don't have a destination. So if you don't have a destination, you're really not gonna get there. I'm not great at telling jokes, but I will tell you this.
I thought it was a good one.
really, really, really excited about what this does, both on the front of supporting this consistent, the way your brand will show up consistently in front of a customer, which by the way is how you set it up. With the strongly recommended support of a domain expert and with the experts on your team that know what this is supposed to feel like, not just what it's supposed to say, it's what it's supposed to feel like, what's the objective at the end of an interaction, how do you want someone to feel about your brand. This will carry that through, but in a very consistent manner. Consistency is one of my favorite words as a customer experience executive. It is the hardest thing to achieve. Anyone who works on this knows that. So that is number one. And number two, that this technology is also, it goes beyond what we're going to see to say, oh, this is, you can have this as a standalone bot, if you will. This can also be an assistant to a human. This can also assist you if you do have that person in the call center, if you do have the person in a store, if you do have someone that's handling a customer in their, on their iPhone via text or through a center where they're getting those messages, and like whatever the channel is, to have that super smart assistant that's helping you. It's almost like having a coach with you. And I know coaches are getting bad rap nowadays, but a good coach, that's next to you saying, this is the play you got to do right now. This is what I'm getting from the things that this person is saying or the kind of hesitation they're having. Try this or try that. That is gold. That's absolutely something that it's very hard to teach people to do that. You're going to have a very small percentage of your team that's able to do that well, but even a smaller percentage of your team of humans that's able to do that consistently well. So if you can help them be their very best in their capacity and what they're doing with this technology, why wouldn't you? So without further ado,
let me jump in on one thing that you said there that I just want to make sure all of it was awesome, but there was one thing in particular I just want to make sure that folks hear that, and then we'll pass it to you, Steve, for sure, is that what Tati just explained is that think of the brain itself, the AI infrastructure, the AI system, as something that can have one or more impacts internally, externally, what have you. All of the knowledge that sits inside of that brain and effectively gets smarter and more useful and iterates over time can be deployed in a modular manner to benefit, like I said, internal, external, different channels and so on and so forth, different segments of your customer population. I think that's a very important point. So I just want to kind of echo that, Tati, and Steve, I'm sure you want to jump in.
Yeah, no, absolutely. From a solution standpoint, you can have multiple entry points from a consumer experience. So last time we showed sort of the web-based experience. Today we'll show and listen to the voice agent, right? But the others are text or a mobile application. So it's really about meeting the consumers where they're at, and based on where they are in their life too. Like somebody's on the move all the time and they want to call into a specific number, then and do the task that they need to do, in this case a return, then that's available to them. So we've got the Aurora hotline here. It's just a phone number that you can call into. Tati will be our consumer and go through the experience. So let me dial this up here. Put it on speaker.
hello.
Hi there. This is Aurora from Stride & Co. Customer Support. How can I help you today?
I need to return my shoes. They're feeling a little tight.
No problem. I see you bought those shoes on your last purchase. Could you tell me when you made that purchase?
I think that purchase was from April 4th.
Thanks for confirming. I've started the return process for those shoes. Would you like to exchange them for a better fitting size or try a different style?
Let's try a different style.
Great choice. Based on your return reason and fit profile, I suggest the ASICS Gel Cumulus or the On Cloud 5. They both have more room in the toe box but maintain that stylish look. Would you like to see those styles?
Yes, I would.
So in the experience here, it's going to text Tati a couple of
Awesome.
different
I'll get those styles for you.
things.
Also, I noticed you're only $20 away from your next loyalty reward. Would you like to add a pair of comfort insoles or a new cap to hit that mark? You have one in your saved for later basket.
That's smart. Yeah, add the cap.
Just to clarify, you'd like to add the cap to your order, right? That'll help you reach your next loyalty reward.
Yes, confirmed.
So great. Good experience, right, Tati? I mean,
Sorry, I didn't get that.
oh,
Try again.
let's see if we can finish it off.
She wants to talk to Tati again. See if she's like, no, enough of you.
Yeah. Let's see. Go ahead, Tati.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to shop with you again.
Let's see what she said.
Sorry, I didn't get that. Please try again.
Let's see. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Sorry, I didn't get that. Please try again.
So she hit a little bit of a barrier there, but you know, it's all good. I think the thing is you can kind of curate the experience. You can know who calls in, right, based on the number that is dialing in or the number that is texting. You can interact and also create different types of interactions. So somebody's calling, but then they get a text to see things, right? Or if they're in store, I had an experience the other day where I was in store and waiting in a really long line, and I was like, I'm not going to wait in line for this. I'm just going to call into the phone number and see if I can do it through the phone number, and it you know, it worked. That was a real life human, but in the AI world, we can curate this experience through AI. So, Tati, how did you feel around the whole return experience?
No, I felt great. One, she made it really easy for me to return, which often is the fear, by the way, when people are calling, is that there's going to be a lot of questions they don't have the answers to, right? Like including, and I happen to have the date, but we've tried before the demo where I didn't have the date of purchase, or I didn't know what shoe I purchased, and she's able to find it. So this whole concept of like, who did you talk to last time? When was the, if you don't have all of the information, sorry, you're out of luck, not your lucky day. That tends to be a lot of the fear that people have in dealing with returns. A lot of these they come in already sort of in that, attack mode, coming in to like, I'm prepared to fight for this to go through. And that is something that as a brand, you don't want to have that for 100 different reasons that we don't need to go over today. I think that, and then the other piece on like making it real easy to try a different style, to try to make, I cannot tell you how many experiences I've had and how many I've mystery shopped on whether you, because of systems issues, you cannot return, you cannot exchange something. You have to complete the return, and then you have to make another purchase. And then you have to ask them, well, I had a discount on the first one. Can you apply the same discount? And they go, no, not the same discount, because right now I have a lower discount. And they have this whole, for lack of a better word, really ridiculous conversation that shouldn't be happening, because this should be seamless, right? There's no reason for a retailer that's not seamless. She's also super smart to tell me, hey, you're $20 away from your loyalty reward. Great. I didn't even remember I had this loyalty card. Sure, add a cap and I get the reward. We can also boost that. We didn't in this case, but we can boost for her to tell me, here are the options for your loyalty, your loyalty rewards and things that I'd be interested in. So to keep that, there's various ways to keep that engagement going, but that's one of the number one issues. This is a multi-billion-dollar problem that retailers have with returns. In so many different levels of this. So for me to see this in such a basic, level being solved so seamlessly, it's absolutely incredible, And I just had, just to add to the experience, I just had this weekend, I purchased a pair of sneakers, and I purchased two actually, and it was a ridiculous experience. Top retailer, won't mention the name, had a ridiculous experience at the front where they said, well, you can get a discount if you sign up for our loyalty program. It took me 10 minutes to sign up for their loyalty program.
Yeah.
And I was waiting for them to ask me for my bank information, social security number, and date of birth, because there were so many things that it was such a hassle. Halfway through, I'm like, is this worth the discount? I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
I think I might just it hurts me to see that happening.
Yeah. Well, I think the tech can make it easier, right? Which is amazing. And then, with that experience, you want to make it as seamless as possible, right? For the consumer, because we're moving fast every day, and everybody's kind of running around, and 10 minutes is worth a lot, right? Going back to what you said earlier, Alec, I think the other thing that this type of tech allows you to do, this type of solution, is from a call center standpoint, like you can curate the experience to upsell them on certain things based on a personalized experience. And then also from a loyalty standpoint, you can run different campaigns and push different loyalty items, loyalty programs, special deals that are out there. And in the old days, you would have to train all the call center team to do that, and it would take a long time. Now you can just basically update it programmatically or configure it in a way that is like, okay, here's the deal of the day, here's the loyalty program of the week. So there's a lot of power in that, and you can move faster as a retailer.
Yeah, I love all of that. The only thing I want to add, just again to make sure that it comes through loud and clear, is where you went there, Steve, is, for folks that are watching and listening, I know it might seem far-fetched, but the technology itself, the AI systems, it literally, the reason we describe it as a brain is it is able to act and function and process like a brain. And so the behavioral data that's in the system that associates with me, for example, from another one of the retailers, which I know you all are going to figure out who it is when I tell this very quick story, has been there for a long time. I've been a long time loyal customer. And when they don't use that data, whether it's when I physically walk in where I'm trying to upgrade a component part of an electronics kit, for example, and or when they don't use that data to effectively and appropriately upsell me on the next component part to my system that clearly reflects my journey in this process of doing this, that, and the other thing, it's just a total miss. And there's so much data because I've been a loyal customer for 12, 15 years to this retailer. And every day that goes by that they don't use that, I'm number one, I'm confused. And number two, you're opening up a gap for a much more modern, sophisticated, AI mature retailer that competes with that retailer to take me away. And once I get taken away and that experience becomes AI first and super frictionless, and I get all the things that I want out of the relationship and I spend, my money with them in all those different areas, I'm never going to go back. And I don't mean to be like the sky is falling guy, but this stuff is all possible now. And it's just remarkable to me, what kind of customer experiences we can have. But I don't know if you, Steve, or Tati have anything left to add before we wrap things up. I wanted to call that out too, is there's lots of data that isn't being put to work. Please put it to work, retailers.
Well, the one thing I will add to all of this, I don't think we talk enough about it, is how this new technology sits atop of your current systems. It can sit atop of your current systems. We don't talk about this because this sounds like a really big multi-million dollar, multi-year, big team, that's not it right now. That's one of the top 5 most exciting things. I get excited about a lot of this in the new technology, but I would say top 5 most exciting things is this is really from being on the other chair and being able to make these decisions and to be able to deploy this modularity that will solve real problems, that will add from day one to either top line, bottom line, or both in a way that is not a multi-year. And of course, is not going to be in contradiction with your company's philosophy and objectives, but it doesn't have to be in some big project that will take 3 years to arrive, because, by the way, that would be too late. We can do this. You can do this. You can change those pieces and bits and pieces of your experience now, immediately, and it will sit on top of whatever system you have, and it will cost a fraction of what you think is going to.
Yeah, and the timing will be a lot quicker, right? It's weeks, not years.
It's weeks.
Weeks.
It's not. So that to me is the biggest piece to this, and I don't think everyone's wrapped their head around it. It's taken me a while to wrap my head around how quickly. And I guess my final thing on this is that this is why we put together this demo in a week, right? To say, hey guys, this is obviously super rudimentary. We made up the company and all of that, but ultimately this is how simple it would be to fix a very big problem that you have.
Yeah, it's wild. I love it. So Steve and Tati, great job. And for those that are watching this, the only thing I would add is, if you want to get a little geeky and see how fast this stuff is moving, look at the A2A and MCP protocols, for example, Google and Anthropic, and the implications of how quickly those protocols are being adopted and by whom, and how fast these types of agentic workflows and experiences can be built and have impact. And there's lots and lots of case studies that are available all across Twitter, LinkedIn, and web environments. So in any case, great job, Steve and Tati, and we'll leave it there.
Thanks, Alec.
Thanks.
See ya.